Today, I want to play the bigger and better game with you. I don't know if you know that game at all. I personally had never heard of it. How many people know the game, bigger and better? No, yeah, bigger and better, right. I had never heard of it until I heard of Kyle MacDonald a few years ago. And basically, how it works is you start with something small, and then you try to trade up to something bigger and better every time. Now, all of you probably have played the trade game before. Like when you were younger, you traded baseball cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards or Pokemon cards. My kids traded all of those cards. Or maybe you traded food at lunchtime when you were in junior high or whatever. You might have taken a big pile of your money and traded it in for a car at some time in your life. We have all traded. But the bigger and better game is even bigger and better than that, because you keep trading until you get to something bigger and better and something you feel satisfied with. So, each of you have a little brown bag that I hope you haven't opened yet. Do not open them yet, but in a minute I will have you open those, and we're going to play the bigger and better game. And I'm going to give you about 2 or 3 minutes to actually trade up with someone here. You might have enough time to make 2 trades or even 3 trades. And I am going to start us off with a red paper clip is what I will be trading. So if you want a red paper clip, I'm the person to trade with. So go ahead and open your bag and make at least 1 trade with someone. Put what you have in the air. Anybody want to trade for a red paper clip? Okay, back to your seats. No more trades. So, trading time is over. Back to your seats. So by a show of hands, how many people traded up? Okay, well, I traded my red paperclip for a little snowman, a little adorable little snowman. And I have to tell you, though I did trade up, I didn't do quite as well as Kyle MacDonald did. Kyle started with 1 red little paperclip, and he traded up after 14 trades in almost a year. And he ended up with a house. No kidding. Now, part of his original offer was that if you trade with me, I will come and meet you, and I will do the trade in person. So his first trade was with a teenage girl who traded her pen in the shape of a fish for his paperclip. He traded that for a door handle. He traded that for a propane camping stove. After that came the electric generator. After that, the empty beer keg with the promise of an instant party and a Budweiser neon sign. The instant party was traded for, believe it or not, a snowmobile. Now, it wasn't a big snowmobile, but it was a snowmobile. The snowmobile traded up to a 2-person trip to Yank, British Columbia, which traded for a delivery truck, which traded for a recording contract. The recording contract went for a year's rent in an apartment in Phoenix. the year's rent was traded with an afternoon with Alice Cooper. They traded the afternoon with Alice Cooper. He traded his afternoon with Alice Cooper for a Kiss, the rock group Kiss, snowmobile. Or no, not snowmobile, snow globe. Now, a lot of people thought that was a bad trade. But he knew of an actor in Hollywood and a producer who happened to love snow globes. And he had a collection of 3,500 snow globes. And he had a feeling that guy would trade up to get that globe. And in fact, he did. He gave away a speaking part in one of his movies. The speaking part in his movie was traded up for the 2-story house in Kipling, Canada. You can watch his whole story. He tells his whole story at a TED Talk on YouTube. It's worth 15 minutes of your time. Trust me, it's pretty amazing. So I'm thinking, how did he do this, and how can we do this? I was inspired by his story, and about the same time, I came in contact with a quote from C.S. Lewis. And here's C.S. Lewis' quote. "It would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition, when infinite joy is offered to us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in the slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at the sea. We are far too easily pleased." And I thought, well, if turning a red paperclip into a house is possible, and if unlimited joy is available to us, maybe we are not dreaming big enough. Maybe we are not asking enough of ourselves or the world. Maybe we need to dream bigger. But what I'm talking about, I'm not really talking about dreaming about getting a bigger house or a better car. I'm talking about making a bigger impact and living a better story. Maybe we need to figure out a way to get a bigger and better life. What would it take for you to commit to a bigger and better life? To trade up to bigger and better? I'm asking you, what is holding you back from doing that? What is it that keeps you small? Is it a person? Is it a hurt? Is it a fear? What is it that keeps you stuck in small? And what would you like to trade up to? Do you want more adventure? More love? More impact on the world? You can trade up to those things. My husband and I went to Cuba this week, and that sounds like a big deal, but it's not, because we went on points. But we did go, and in a way, I feel like I have Donald Trump to thank for my bigger and better adventure. Because Donald, in June of last year, said that Americans are no longer allowed to go to Cuba as tourists. I didn't think you could go. But it turns out, with just a few massaging of words and fake news, you are allowed to go, but only in support of the Cuban people. So, the caveat is this. If you go in support of the Cuban people, you must stay in a hotel or an Airbnb, kind of like a tourist. And the prices are incredibly cheap. And you must eat in the restaurants, kind of like a tourist. And the prices are incredibly cheap. And you must go to museums like a tourist, and the prices are incredibly cheap. And what we found out is our money went really far in Cuba, because the average income there is $44 a month. So it allowed us to tip big. to hire people to take us on tour around the city, to pay people to take us for rides in their 1950 cars, to pay people to have our picture taken with them in their Cuban outfits. We had a bigger and better adventure in support of the Cuban people than we would have if we were tourists. Because we were able to make an impact for just a few people to make their lives a little bit better. And that's what makes our lives better. Kyle MacDonald realized in his process of trading up to bigger and better that it was really about the people, the connections he made, the exchanges he made, the time where he was very present with each person in each trade. That was the better part for him. He says, it was about all these people saying, yes, let's collaborate. Yes, let's do something together. Let's build something. Let's see what happens. I believe that. It's all about the people. How can we be in support of the Cuban people? How can we be in support of the American people? How can we be in support of the people in our family? How can we be supportive of our friends, of each other? Because I think that makes it bigger and better. How do we get that? I think the answer is trading up. Now you might be wondering, well, how do you trade up? I think in order to trade up, we have to let go of our ego. We have to let go of being right and being controlling and micromanaging and defending ourselves and proving that we have been wronged. We have to give all of that up and trade for humility and compassion and kindness. In this 12-step program, there's a central question. Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? We have to give up. I have to be right and be in our humility. Also, to trade up, we have to let go of our loneliness and we have to trade it up for connection. Trade withholding for sharing, closed heart for open. We have to be willing to show up. Physically show up, emotionally show up with your ideas, show up with your energy, show up here with that. As a matter of fact, I'm looking for somebody to show up with me to help with our next parents' night out. It's a hoot. All the little ones come. They are adorable. So if you're interested in helping me show up, tell me that you'll help me with the parents' night out. Or feeding at Turning Point, the elderly people that live there. It's joyful. Getting involved in our community outreach programs and working on our garage sale. Our garage sale here is not really about earning money. It's about making things available to people in the neighborhood at a good price that they couldn't ordinarily pay for. So trading up is come sing a song with me. Come dance a dance with me. If you show up, you will find that you have traded up to a bigger and better life. We also have to trade our reactivity for proactivity. We have to shift from being a person that is outside directed in, controlled by other people's thoughts and feelings about us, to a person that is inside directed out, that I define for myself who I am. Somebody else doesn't do it for me. We have to shift from reacting to things outside and being able to respond from an inside self. Reverend Matt Toggle talks about this when he talks about his wife. He says that his wife really has this proactive stuff down medically. And he, on the other hand, is reactive. She schedules for him and her every year a mole appointment to have moles looked at and checked on. And he finds this remarkable because he said, I only go to the doctor when I'm incredibly sick or incredibly injured. I don't do any of that preventative work. His wife, however, valuing medical, long life and everything, sets up appointments in advance to check the moles to make sure they're not precancerous. So, a corollary to giving up this reactionary way of being in the world and getting proactive is you must trade in your victim card for your I am responsible card. I am responsible for everything I'm doing, thinking, and feeling, and I am here to tell you, you are too. You are responsible for what's happening in your life. If you're not happy, it's up to you to trade up for better and bigger. So, I encourage you to shred those victim cards. Stop blaming people. Stop blaming your past. Stop blaming your parents. Stop blaming the world. And pick up one of those I am responsible empowerment cards, because it's so much better way to live. Trading up also means that we have to trade our fear for love. I had a client yesterday who said to me, well, how do you do that? He wants to meet a girl. He's 23, and he's so dying to meet a girl. And he spends all of his free time at home playing video games. By himself. And I'm sure he's connected somehow on the internet playing with somebody I don't know. But I suggested perhaps one of those online dating places, and he could just practice talking to a girl. And he said, oh, no, I wouldn't know what to say. I'm just too afraid to do that. And I said, oh, well, you just answered your question. How do I move from fear to love? You feel the fear, and you do it anyway. I said, you can't wait till your fear goes away. You have to dig out your courage and move in the direction that you want to go. I said, next time you come in here, you better be signed up for one of those dating sites. And he said, absolutely. He's pushing himself. He's going to do it. I'll update you later. So, in order to move from fear running your life to love running your life, you have to feel the fear and do it anyways. And finally, the ultimate trading up is trading in protection of self in order to serve others. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a self. You have to have a self. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have boundaries. You have to have boundaries. But I am saying there is joy, joy, joy to be had if you learn you are okay all the time. You are already safe. And you can extend your hand to help another person. I know you're safe because nobody has had your journey before. Never in all of history and never in anything to come. You came to this planet at this point in time, to this earth, to this planet, to this country, with the gender you have, the sexual orientation you have, the color skin you have. You came here on a unique and sacred journey. I think of it as being safe on a divine level, on a universe level. You're supposed to be here. Who you are is a light in the world. So trading up, letting go of that withholding, I'm not going to let you in, as opposed to I am safe and I can help you. It's a better way. It's a bigger and better life. I want to tell you about the story in the Bible where Jesus approaches a young man, a very wealthy young man. And Jesus says, hey, would you give up all that stuff that you have and follow me? And the young man says, I don't think so. Now I'm going to hold on to my stuff because it's what makes me important in the world. He wasn't willing to trade up. He didn't recognize that Jesus was saying, I'm asking you to get rid of all that stuff that you carry around, that you pretend makes you important and wonderful, and let go of that and know at a deeper level that you're already wonderful. You don't need all of that, those props, to show up and be the light that you are. I really think that it is about people. It's about you. It's about me. It's about us. It's about the people in Cuba. It's about the people in Thailand. It's the people in Ethiopia. It's about all of us on the planet being able to trade up to living in the light that you already have, that's already inside of you. That's what it's all about. So I want to ask you, are you willing to trade up? Are you willing to trade up being closed and protective to being joyful and connected? I want to end with one more trading up story. It's told by Bob Goff in his wonderful book, Love Does. The story is about his 16-year-old son, Rich. He and his friends were playing the bigger and better game. They each started from his house with a dime. And they went out to separate areas in the neighborhood with their dime. And Rich, his son, went to the first neighbor and said, I'm playing the bigger and better game, and I have a dime. I wonder if you could trade me anything that's bigger and better than that. Well, the man that answered the door had never heard of this game before, but he was immediately in. He said, honey, there's some kid here playing the bigger and better game. I'm playing with him. Do we have anything bigger and better than a dime? Well, Rich walked away with a mattress. He called some of his buddies on the cell phone. They came and helped him. They drug it to the next door and asked if they would play the bigger and better game and if they had anything bigger and better than a mattress. They gave him a ping pong table. A while later, he skipped down the road with his ping pong table, and he traded up for an elk head. Bob Goff says, how cool is that? I would have stopped there, but Rich didn't. He kept trading up. By the end of the night, when Rich came home, he didn't have a dime, or a mattress, or a ping pong table, or an elk head, or the 5 other things he traded up. Nope. Rich drove home in a pickup truck. No lie. He started with a dime and he ended with a Dodge. Which I think is a remarkable story, don't you? But it's not the end of the story. He traded up again. What do you think he did with that truck? He gave it away to a church down the street that needed it. Because he had already learned at age 16 the joy of having a bigger impact and living a better story. Kyle MacDonald's conclusion was this: it's not about the paperclip, about having it or selling it or how much it's worth. If I hadn't traded it away, I would still just be a guy sitting at his desk with a paperclip in his hand wondering what would happen if I did something with that paperclip. So if you have a paperclip, or whatever you got today in your little bag, trade it away. You might only get a fish pen, but it might be the single step that leads to an amazing journey. I want that for you. I want bigger and better. Blessed be. Amen. As you go forth this week, I encourage you to dream big.